People, deluded, I'm back again. It's the international break. There's nothing going on in the Premier League or anything of relevance, and no reason for me to be making this video other than the fact of I've seen on Spurs' website Pochettino has left. Now, you could say it's a shock, you could say it isn't. You could say it's not a shock because if you believe the paper and you look at Spurs' form, the writing to a degree did look at like it's the end, and it's been on the wall, people and whatnot. It has looked like it's over right now for Spurs and Pochettino in the sense that results haven't been there. They've stagnated, question marks over lack of significant investment in the summer. I know they got Lo Celso on loan and they bought Ndombele for a healthy purchase, but to take them to the next level, it hasn't been there. So everything comes to an end. Personally, I thought it would have been end of the season. It's happened today, people. What Spurs, I don't know how Levy thinks and them things, but whether Spurs have a replacement lined up's a different thing. I'd say it's a shock. On the other hand, before I start waffling on about other stuff, people, I'd say it's a shock because I know Spurs have been wobbling and Pochettino should be asked questions. On one hand, he's had a very good Spurs side for a number of years, anything from 3 to 5 years. This season and probably last season, they've started to fall off, but at a point, he got them, like I said, most fearful time as an Arsenal fan watching Spurs, in my humble opinion. He's got them playing well. He should have potentially had more of a push to win trophies, but he's made them fearful. He's made the ops, as we are as Arsenal fans, fearful. He obviously got to a Champions League final, but you can say them sort of things there are a blessing and a curse, people. It's a curse in the sense that football reaches cycles, and as a manager, and all of these things, once you get to that, I don't say pinnacle because it's not winning the trophy, but once you kind of hit that ceiling as far as you can take the team, it typically ends up in that managers leave clubs and it hasn't, and then they don't really kick on and whatnot. Like I said, the investment was there, but it hasn't really been there for a number of years with the base Spurs had. Spurs' spine as a club isn't there at the moment. Previously, they had, in my opinion, one of the best functioning back fives in the league in their heyday. Obviously, Lloris, Danny Rose, Kyle Walker. You had obviously the two Belgium lads at centre half. And like I said, it's cycles. It's how much do you want to kick on. There's still good players there, but at the end of the day, the investment hasn't been there to do what potentially Liverpool's doing. Do you get what I'm saying? In the sense of, obviously, they can't do a City. It just simply hasn't been there, and you can only get so far. Football works in cycles, people. You see it to a lesser degree. I know Zidane's ironically back at Madrid, but Madrid, for example, there's many different clubs there. You have a good 3-4 years, and then other things happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen to Liverpool, but even in Klopp's situation, he's been there for a number of years, rebuilt the side, won the Champions League, potentially going to win the Premier League. If he does do that, how much more will he obviously persist? Because, for instance, he talks about taking a break and things like that. How long is the Liverpool tie going to last? Or if he doesn't win the Premier League, would he potentially feel that he's taken them as far? Obviously, the situation is different, but what I'm saying, people, is football works in cycles. It's typically 3 to 4 years. Spurs has been, again, Spurs fans know specifically, but for me, I'd say anything from 3 to 5 years. Now, you look at their squad, the players have to take some blame as well. They're the ones playing at the end of the day. But like I said, the best of managers find themselves in this period where I'm not going to say the players aren't listening, but whatever the manager's trying in terms of coaching, he's failing to evolve the team. The teammates, the players are failing to adopt the new tactics, or potentially what's working now just isn't working anymore, and he's unable to get them out of there. And I wouldn't say Poch loves Spurs in the sense of, come on now, Spurs fans, no banter and whatnot, but he's not a Spurs fan. He never grew up in Enfield or Tottenham and whatnot. He's from Spain. He's obviously got his own affiliations in Argentina. Apologies, he's from Argentina, but he's played in Spain. He loves Espanyol. Obviously, we'll see what Pochettino is saying. Oh, no doubt he's going to get linked to a number of big clubs. The Spurs position, obviously, I'm hoping they don't get Allegri or anyone like that, people. They need to be bringing Hyundai Ramos or Tim Sherwood and these sort of man in, people, really and truly, or giving it to Ryan Mason or something for the year. But banter aside, it does lead me to believe to get rid of him, well, now really in November, where in theory you can mathematically still get top 4. These things don't happen overnight. Like these, whatever Levy and Pochettino and their advisors have been saying to each other, they've clearly been at loggerheads as to how this club can move forward in regards to Levy's vision and potentially what Pochettino's vision is. Because these things don't happen overnight. And for Pochettino to really build the squad and to a degree at a point be so close but so far from building onto that level, he's probably frustrated and conceded, there's nothing more I can do. Now, I don't know if Levy has a plan and whatnot for Spurs, but you'd like to think there's at least a contingency plan, whether they give it to a youth manager or a caretaker manager to the end of the season and they bring in another name, or they bring in an established name tomorrow, is for instance, people, because this news just come out of nowhere. So there's probably a plan in regards to recruitment. You can no doubt imagine the names that are going to get linked. Like I said, Allegri, potentially Jose Mourinho. Nagelsmann's been linked. Who else is probably going to get linked, people? Eddie Howe will probably get thrown into the ring. And there'll be a couple other managers that I'm not stating. Hopefully they get the worst manager of the bunch, or the worst manager they could potentially find. I'm obviously going to say that as an Arsenal fan, but I'm pretty sure I speak for most Spurs fans, if I can say that, just as a lover of football, first and foremost, that it's bittersweet. Most people potentially saw the writing on the wall in regards to this divorce of Pochettino at Spurs. Like they say, the hottest loves have the coldest ends. Spurs have had some lovely moments. And obviously, like I've said previously, with how well Spurs have generally done in this period, it's bittersweet in that you could see it coming, but you would have prayed to God that it could have changed and whatnot. And I potentially believe, obviously, the way Spurs have been playing is a big factor, because if they were winning games and, you know, obviously second and third and chatting to Liverpool and City, Pochettino potentially still be in the role, and these rumours wouldn't have been there. But for me, it leads me to believing that there's been disagreements for time, and whether it's Levy or Poch, whoever's pulled the plug, they've had enough now. It's like, whether it's Poch and he feels, listen, I'm not the one to give these players fresh ideas. I don't feel they're receptive to what I'm saying now. I personally feel I can't take this thing forward. Or he might have a next move lined up, people. That's the ultimate reality. Because I'm just assuming that he's looking at it from a coaching point of view, and just Spurs. He could have a next move lined up in the end of the season and he's taking time off, and things like that. But it leads me to believe Spurs have a plan, people, because surely Poch, forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm not talking about finances, he's on what, 8 million a year? I don't know how much it would cost to terminate that and whatnot, but surely you're not going to take out that outlay and potentially on top of, like Arsenal, potential prospects of missing out on Champions League football without someone else coming in mid-season. It would also, I didn't really want to speak about Arsenal in this video, people, but we kind of going on to Arsenal indirectly, and Pochettino's situation and future should be irrelevant to Emery's, people. But Arsenal, Spurs, the way football is, the media, I wouldn't say more pressure is going to go on Pochettino. Going to go on Emery as a direct result of Pochettino losing his role. But you know how it's going to go. People are going to look at, well, Arsenal and Spurs, similar situations. Pochettino, he's been their manager, he's got them Champions League football, and they've got rid of him, really and truly. Well, go on for Emery, like, he's not really done anything. There's not really a single fragment of significance you can cling on and say that's what you believe in during his tenure right now at Arsenal. Obviously that's a dim view to look at it, people. The situations are different and whatnot, but for Spurs it's an interesting situation they'll go into, obviously with the uncertainties over several players' contracts, with just the need to rebuild that side, specifically the back five. Do they go out and think you can use Lloris for this season and potentially next, but he's getting on a bit. That young goalkeeper, centre-halves, if they haven't got them in the squad already, to be that new young Vertonghen and Toby in their heyday. Obviously the fullbacks. Ryan Sessegnon, I've seen him play everywhere from behind the striker, left wing and left back. I don't know our Spurs fan situation, but most Spurs fans that I speak to, and that, they say when he has played, he's doing up left mid, and I think he could have a future as a fullback, but equally as a left mid, because I wouldn't say he's the best of defenders naturally, people, but he could even end up behind the striker. I don't know how their thing works, but my point is looking at him, potentially Max Clark next season, Jack Clark, can't remember his first name, Clark at Leeds, apologies, people. Spurs signed him and whatnot. He's quite young. Like I said, rebuilding the team. Ndombele's just been signed, and if he can get his fitness up and really last 90 minutes and they bring in investments, they can still have a decent team there, because they've still got Son. Dele's been in for the last couple of seasons, not really been Dele in my opinion, but if he gets back playing, Kane's obviously a gunman in front of goal. You know what you're getting with Kane, goals galore. They've got Son who does his thing, Moura does his thing in terms of moments. They obviously need a couple players, like I said, but I don't want to say similar to Arsenal because the situations are completely different, but new stadium, uncertainties over players' futures. Fair enough, Wenger stayed over the initial Emirates period, people, but it's a delicate situation, especially missing out on that Champions League. I mean, not to big up Wenger for this, but at the time it was bantered out in how Champions League is a trophy in a sense, and to a degree it is, people. For Arsenal, for instance, top 4 in guaranteed Champions League or winning the Europa League, I know it gets you Champions League, but if we exclude that newly inserted fragment and just focus on the fact that it's a trophy or qualification for a trophy that we're unlikely to win, the football purists will obviously side with a trophy in the moments, but many people will look at it and say, yo, Champions League, we need it. And from a commercial point of view, it does. Spurs do need it. And have they written off this season, people, really and truly, Spurs, and said, you know what, whoever comes in, you've got a season and a half to do your thing, or you've got a long term, 2, 3, 4 years to do your thing. This season, or what's left of it, is a free hit. That's for them to decide. For Arsenal, like I said, the pressure is probably going to mount at Emery because it's a dim view, but people are going to look at it and say, yo, like, how's Emery still in the role and things? And I don't want that to be the case, people, but you know how these things are going to happen. I'm going to Arsenal versus Southampton on Saturday, and I pray to God we win. But could you imagine, people? Imagine if Spurs get rid of their gaffer and they go on a winning form, because these sort of things happen. You know, when obviously not all the time, but how many times have you seen Brendan Rodgers, new manager comes in and miraculously these players start playing mad? Can you imagine if Spurs go on a decent run of form, getting this new manager, whoever he is, whenever he comes in, or whoever manages in the short-term future, they go ahead of Arsenal and stuff. Can you imagine the headlines? Now, I don't really care about all of that, but many people that are on Emery's neck and stepping on Emery's neck theoretically and saying, yo, why are you still in this role, will potentially look at our neighbours down the lane. Now, Pochettino, if you're on a Sol Campbell thing, then you're always welcome to come to the Emirates. Obviously, banter aside, people, I know that isn't going to happen. For Poch, it's a difficult one because he's still a regular watcher of La Liga. He's obviously played in La Liga. He's been linked with managing potentially at La Liga clubs. He said he'd never manage Barcelona again, but if they got rid of Valverde, really revisit that statement. Tuchel's doing all right, forgive me for mispronunciation, at PSG, but for instance, Poch has always been linked with that position, and also the fact that he's a former player for them as well, people. So I'll be interested to see Pochettino's next step, because at least you'd like to, you never know because football's mad, but you'd like to think he won't manage in another capacity, at least until the end of the season, start of the new season. And you can imagine the headlines, but it'll be interesting to see Spurs' next steps, people. And for Arsenal players, again, top 4 is mad because Leicester are complicating that. Chelsea are doing well. 2 positions obviously go to City and Liverpool respectively. And obviously United are in the fight and whatnot, and we've been in poor form. But you lot are not living in a bubble. You lot should see this and think, yo, listen, that's one opponent kind of out of the equation. I'm not completely ruling out Spurs. I'm saying if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be on Snapchat or whatever tonight, like, yo, have you seen Pochettino and that? Like, them, he bust out, you know, like, what going for that team? Listen, we need to fix up this season. United are rubbish like us. Spurs are probably going to write off the season like us. Chelsea are doing their thing, but if they go for a blip of form, similar to Liverpool, and keyword ifs and buts are very funny in this world, people, where we can only deal with facts. You go on a run of form, maybe you get top 4. Now, I'm being wishful as an Arsenal fan, putting myself in the player situation, because I think regardless, we're not going to get top 4. But yeah, man, we'll see what happens. And to be honest, there's been nothing else today to speak about, so I thought, why not mention on that? Because it took me by surprise. I know it's irrelevant to me, it's relevant to Spurs fans, but would I have seen Pochettino leaving in November? No. If you said that couple of months ago when he got to the Champions League final, forgive me if I'm wrong, football moves so fast. Can't remember if it was this year where it was Liverpool versus Spurs. Of course, I'm bugging out, it was. But if you said then that Pochettino would leave in mid-season, like before the turn of the new year, I'd say it's a madness. But you going back, like I said, cycles, it could be the best thing but the worst thing that happened for Poch and Spurs, them two specifically, getting into that final, because Spurs have had a good squad and whatnot, but like cycles happen, and when you get to a final, it goes beyond the manager really and the players. It's how much do the club want to kick on? Do they want to? And they probably wouldn't get to a repeat Champions League final. Obviously Liverpool did it, but it's like, did you have a taste for the big time and you're going to go out there whether you can or not and get significant players to accompany the quality players and the consistent players you've already got? It's about kicking on to that next level, and Spurs haven't shown that. I know they spent, I don't even know what, 60 or something on Ndombele, and they've got an option to buy on Lascelles. So, but if we cut the crap, I'm sure Spurs fans, for the number of years, maybe the last couple of years, not so much, but they would have thought to themselves, if we could sign a this, that, and a this, and a high quality this, we could do this. But it's not to be. Don't get it twisted. I'm ecstatic as an Arsenal fan, but as a football fan, yeah, man, I could feel your pain really and truly in terms of managerial uncertainty, and we'll have to see how that situation unfolds. But for now, people, DG, thank you for watching and rocking each and every time. It means the world for your consistent support. Like, subscribe, comment your opinions, share up the vid, keep subscribing and whatnot. Keep following me on all my socials, which are in the description. Check out the Deluded podcast. We're back this week, probably Friday, because Premier League's back. But yeah, DG, I'm out.